The latest decision by the United States President Donald Trump to raise tariffs on aluminum imports from 10% to 25% and remove tariff exemptions for key allies like Canada, Mexico, and South Korea has triggered a strong backlash in the global economy. But this isn't the first time Trump's trade policies have sparked international controversy. In 2018, President Donald Trump invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 to impose tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% tariff on aluminum imported into the United States, citing national security concerns. These measures were taken to support local metal industries by reducing competition from foreign countries. However, major trade partners like the European Union, EU, Canada, and Mexico saw the tariffs as an unfair way to limit foreign competition. In response, the EU implemented retaliatory tariffs on approximately 2.8 billion euros worth of U.S. goods, targeting iconic American products such as bourbon whiskey and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The tariffs led to increased costs for U.S. manufacturers reliant on imported metals, with companies like General Motors and Ford missing earnings forecasts due to higher expenses. Upon taking office, President Joe Biden sought to repair trade relationships strained by these tariffs. In October 2021, the U.S. and the EU reached an agreement to suspend the tariffs, replacing them with a tariff rate quota system. This arrangement allowed a specified volume of European steel and aluminum to enter the U.S. market without tariffs, while maintaining duties on imports exceeding the quota. The deal also led to the suspension of the EU's retaliatory tariffs on American goods. This suspension was intended as a temporary measure, providing a 2-year window to negotiate a more permanent resolution. However, as the March 2025 deadline approaches, the absence of a finalized agreement has led to concerns about the potential reinstatement of tariffs and a resurgence of trade tensions. Let's dive more into the story behind these tariffs, the global response, and what it means for the future of international trade. But first, let's define what a tariff is and what it aims to do. A tariff is a tax that a government puts on goods or products that are imported that is brought in from other countries. This tax makes these foreign products more expensive, which can encourage people to buy locally made goods instead. Tariffs are often used to protect a country's own industries from foreign competition. However, tariffs can also lead to higher prices for consumers and trade conflicts between countries. Let's dive back in. Trump's tariff decision. The latest tariff hike is part of Trump's long-standing America First trade policy, which aims to protect domestic industries by making foreign goods imported into the country more expensive. The new tariffs, set to take effect on March 12, 2025, eliminates critical trade agreements that had been negotiated to ease tensions with key allies. Specifically, it removes quota deals and hundreds of individual tariff exclusions that had allowed certain countries and companies to continue exporting metals to the U.S. under specific conditions. End of quota deals. Under previous agreements, major U.S. trading partners such as Canada, Mexico, and South Korea had negotiated quota-based exemptions from the original 2018 tariffs. These quotas allowed them to export a limited amount of steel and aluminum to the U.S. without facing full tariff rates. However, Trump's new decision revokes these quota arrangements, meaning that even previously exempted imports will now be subject to the higher tariff rates of 25% on aluminum and 10% tariff on steel. Cancellation of tariff exclusions. Over the years, hundreds of companies, particularly in industries reliant on specialized metals, had secured exemptions from tariffs on specific types of steel and aluminum products. These exclusions, granted by the U.S. Commerce Department, allowed businesses to import essential materials that were not sufficiently produced domestically or were critical for manufacturing. By eliminating these exemptions, Trump's move significantly raises costs for industries such as automotive manufacturing, aerospace, and construction, which depend on imported metals. Economic and trade impact. With the removal of these quota deals and exclusions, major exporters of steel and aluminum, including the EU, Canada, and Mexico, are facing new barriers to the U.S. market. This abrupt policy shift disrupts established supply chains, forces U.S. companies to find alternative sources, and increases prices for American manufacturers that rely on these imports. As a result, the decision is expected to spark strong retaliation from affected nations, with the potential for renewed trade conflicts reminiscent of the 2018 trade wars. Let's quickly define what a trade war or trade conflict is. A trade conflict or trade war occurs when countries disagree over trade policies and take actions against each other, such as raising tariffs, that is, taxes on imports, or restricting trade. For instance, if one country increases tariffs on another country's goods, the other country may retaliate with similar measures. This back and forth can harm businesses, raise prices for consumers, and strain international relations. Essentially, it's an economic struggle where countries aim to protect their own industries, but often end up disrupting global trade. Now let's take a closer look at how this is playing out. Canada, one of the U.S.'s closest allies and largest trading partner, has strongly opposed the tariffs. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called the move unacceptable and warned of serious consequences for both economies. Canada supplies nearly 80% of U.S. aluminum imports, and its industries could lose billions of dollars due to the new tariffs. In response, Canada plans to impose 25% tariffs on $16.5 billion worth of U.S. exports, targeting products like orange juice, peanut butter, and motorcycles. These tariffs are set to take effect on February 4, 2025, just weeks before the U.S. tariffs begin. However, Canada isn't just relying on retaliation. The country is also diversifying its trade relationships to reduce its dependence on the U.S. market. For example, Canada has significantly increased oil exports to China and other Asian markets through the expanded Trans Mountain Pipeline, which started operations in May 2024. This pipeline has tripled Canada's oil export capacity to the Pacific Coast, providing greater access to high-demand markets in Asia. Mexico, another key U.S. trade partner, has also criticized the tariffs. While specific details of Mexico's response are still emerging, the country is expected to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agricultural and industrial exports. Mexico's economy is closely linked with the U.S., and any disruption to trade could have significant consequences for both nations. Mexico's response will likely focus on protecting its domestic industries while minimizing the impact on its own economy. The country is also exploring ways to strengthen trade ties with other regions, including Europe and South America, to reduce its reliance on the U.S. market. The European Union has been quick to condemn Trump's tariffs, calling them unjustified and harmful to global trade. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has warned that the EU will not stand idly by. In response, the EU is preparing to reinstate tariffs on U.S. goods that were originally imposed during the 2018 trade wars but suspended under a truce with the Biden administration. So why is this happening now? Analysts suggest this move is part of Trump's broader strategy to renegotiate trade deals and reduce the U.S. trade deficit. The latest tariff hike and the global response highlight the fragility of international trade relationships. In an interconnected world, decisions made by one country can create widespread effects that reach far beyond its borders. The EU, Canada, and Mexico are united in their stance that Trump's tariffs are unjustified and counterproductive, and they are prepared to defend their economies through targeted countermeasures. But the stakes are high. A prolonged trade war could lead to higher prices for consumers, job losses in important industries, and a loss of trust between nations. As the world watches closely, one thing is clear: the future of global trade is at a critical point. Trump's latest tariffs have revived concerns about a global trade war, but they have also prompted a united response from the EU, Canada, and Mexico. As these nations prepare to defend their economies, the world is reminded of the importance of cooperation and fair trade practices. The coming months will be critical as nations navigate these tensions and seek to protect their economic interests. One thing is certain: the decisions made today will shape the future of global trade for years to come. What are your thoughts on these developments? Do you think the responses from the EU, Canada, and Mexico are justified? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of global events. Thanks for watching.